Hey, welcome back to the Metropole Grid. My name is Andre. Thanks so much for tuning in. As you might know, if you've been following this channel, in just 2 weekends on August 26th and 27th, here in Montreal, we are hosting a Canadian National Championship. This is the first major Netrunner event to ever happen in Quebec, and I'm absolutely honored to be able to put this on again in just a couple weekends. Now, I wanted to put together a quick video to talk a bit about the event, what's going on, the schedule, and then very importantly, some tips for folks who are maybe traveling up to Montreal for the first time. So if you're one of the lucky folks who are taking the time to come down to Montreal, August 26th and 27th, this video is very specifically for you. Obviously, the audience for this video is a bit smaller than maybe some other things on this channel, but if you want to learn a bit about Montreal, at least this won't be very long. On that note, of course, we're going to be going through a bunch of links. All this stuff will be in the description, all these links that we mentioned. And if you have any questions regarding the event that isn't answered here, please just hit me in the comments below and I'll get to you as soon as I can. But otherwise, let's dive in. Let's talk about this event and all the things I think you should know. Firstly, August 26th and the 27th, that is the event dates. The first day is going to be a standard tournament, and then we have a startup tournament and a top cut on the second day. We'll be talking about that more in detail. But very importantly, we are being hosted at the Silver Goblin. That is my local game store. If you search it on Google, the French name often comes up first, which is Goblin d'Argent, the name that you see here. But there's only one place, those names are the same. It's on St. Catharines West, again, in Montreal. This store is absolutely fantastic. Shout out to Adam, who's helping us organize this. But this place is just a phenomenal place to play cards. I played many card games here. It's an open space. It's very clean, a lot of tables, a lot of light and air conditioning. We could not ask for a better spot. Of course, tickets for this event have been online for a while. If you want to grab them, they're up on the Silver Goblin website. It's $40 Canadian to enter, and that gets you into both days. Again, grab your tickets now. You want to do them sooner than later. Now, getting to the Silver Goblin is pretty easy. It is kind of right downtown. If you search the Silver Goblin, it is here on St. Catharines West. I just want to shout out because the building is a bit different. You don't actually have anything on street level. So when you come in, you're going to see this building. It's called the Belgo building. That's where it is. And you'll see this green sign that says Galerie d'Art Contemporain du Belgo. We are inside there. Now, these two shops on both sides are different by now. This is an older photo, but you want to be looking for that sign there. That is the building you want to enter. Ideally, there's always a sandwich board with the Silver Goblin logo in that says like, hey, there's a game store inside, but you want to go straight through these doors. Once you go through these doors, in front of you, there will be some stairs. You want to go up 2 floors and you'll be at, basically, if you go a bit to the left, you'll be at the door of the Silver Goblin. It looks like this. There's a big sign. Their logo is this like D20 with a G on it and a glass door. You can't miss it. Now, there are also elevators. You just in the lobby, if you go to the left or the right, there will be signs. Again, floor 2 is where you want to go. It should be super accessible. In terms of restrooms, there are gendered restrooms 1 floor below and 1 floor above. And on the same floor, there's all gender private restrooms. For that, you just need to ask Adam from the Silver Goblin for the key. It should be no problem. Just please kindly return that key. Now, how do you get to the Silver Goblin? I've been asked about driving and parking classically in downtown Montreal can be a bit of a bear, but luckily there is parking within the building. So this is the Belgo building where the Silver Goblin is. And if you go down this street on the right, which is a one-way street called Rue de Bleury, right behind the Belgo building, there is this little alley. It should be clearly marked. There's a green P parking sign. And if you turn right down this alley, you'll see that if you turn right underneath the building, there will be a parking garage. You can go down there, you can park, they take cash or credit, and you can park for the whole day for $16. It's worth noting that I've been told the parking attendant doesn't speak a lot of English. I promise you, you will be fine. It is worth noting that the city is just about entirely bilingual. If you speak no word of French, you'll be totally fine. Just about everyone speaks English, but it's $16 and you'll be able to park there for the entire day. Now, you might be warned by the attendant that technically you have to leave by 6 p.m. from the parking, and that is only true because the building closes classically at 6. We're going to be there later for 6. The Silver Goblin is going to be open for us, so there will be no problem leaving. If you're warned about that, that's why, because technically the building closes. You'll have no problem leaving there. Now, if you want to park somewhere a bit further away, there is this. This is the Parkade Montreal. It's a couple blocks away. This is a 24-hour parking station. I believe it's a bit cheaper. I think it's $8 to $10 to park for the whole weekend. And it's only about a 5-minute walk away. So if somehow you want to park a bit further, save some money, that's a great place to go to. Again, all these links in the description below. One thing to watch out though, if you are driving into Montreal, specifically the island of Montreal, you are not allowed to turn right at a red light. That is something that is just specifically a Montreal thing. So just be careful when you get into the city. There will be signage that warns you, but don't turn right on red. You're just not allowed to do it. Now, driving in the city can actually be a bit difficult. It is downtown. It's going to be quite busy. And I'd recommend if you can, if you're where you're staying, take the metro, take public transport if you can. It is fantastic in the city. We have a subway system and bus systems. The subway system, mind you, in Montreal is called the Metro. STM is what it's called too. And they have a really, really well laid out line of subway systems. And we're actually very close to the Metro line. Specifically, a Metro pass for an entire weekend, I believe it's only $15.25 to get, the regular fare. That's for unlimited weekend travel. So if you're here from the weekend from 4 p.m. on Friday to 5 a.m. Monday morning, this gets you just about everywhere for only $15. That's absolutely fantastic deal. If you want to see where we are, we're actually smack dab between a lot of metro lines. So specifically here on the green line is a metro stop called Place des Arts, which is a very busy one. That's here. We are a 3-minute walk away from the metro. So if you can, just take the metro, take the subway. It's a very easy way to travel. You don't have to worry about parking. Similarly, the orange line, which is just on the other side. So you see how Place des Arts is up here. The orange line stops by Place d'Armes, and down here at Square Victoria. It's about an 8-minute walk from there. So no matter what line you're on, the green or orange, you're going to get to the Silver Goblin in less than 10 minutes. I'd recommend that over driving if you have the option. If you want to be even more brave, there are bike rentals all across Montreal. These are called Bixies, a portmanteau of bike and taxi. And these are rentals that are just set up all along on just these machined panels. You go in there, you can buy a membership or just a one-way pass. It's about $3, and you're allowed to take a bike out for 45 minutes until you return it to one of the bike stations. It's meant to be quite nice, the weather. It's meant to be like 22 degrees. I think that's like 70 Fahrenheit. And this is how I travel around the city all the time. If you go into the Bixi app or into Google Maps, it'll tell you which kind of streets have the sort of more, I would say, you feel probably more safe, the sort of like designated bike lanes. And those are the ones to do. You don't have to bike through traffic. There's a lot of good bike infrastructure in the city. Now, do watch out. There are two kinds of Bixi bikes. There's the gray ones, which is the base one, and then there's the blue one, which is, they're less common, but those ones have an assisted motor in them. They're slightly more expensive to take out, but very importantly, you are legally obliged to wear a helmet if you are on the blue one with a motor. It goes fast and it is required by law. While I would recommend you to bring a helmet if you're going to Bixi anyways, you can get a ticket if you don't on the blue one. So just be careful with that. But biking in the city is absolutely fantastic. And these Bixi stations are just literally all over the city. This is where the Silver Goblin is. There's one right next to it, and they're like every 2 blocks. It's kind of hard to go without seeing one. So super convenient way to travel if you want to get some more exercise. And that takes us to the event. Again, we have a 2-day event. The first day is going to be the standard Swiss tournament. So this is in the standard format. If you're not familiar, you can find more about the standard format on the Null Signal Games website. So that is a larger card pool. It has some of the FFG product in it, but we've had a new rotation just a couple weeks ago, new ban list. Just watch out for that. Of course, the Dominant Initiative, the new set that has just been out, which has been really exciting, is legal for this tournament. So if you want to come out and play with your new cards, this is a great time to do it. Worth noting, at all levels of competitive play, proxies are entirely legal. So if you don't own some standard cards, if you're missing some sets, if you're just a startup player, getting into standard is super simple. Just watch out at this sort of level event, your proxies cannot be hand drawn. So kindly ask for help if you need this, but you want to print out your cards and then put those into sleeves with something backing behind them, like a magic card, an old rotated Netrunner card, or whatever you have. But proxies are legal. They just cannot be hand drawn at this sort of event. They don't have to be color printed either. Black and white is totally fine. And of course, first day is standard. There will be startup the following day, but I recommend if you can try out some standard. And I think this is a separate topic, but if you look at some of the modern standard decks right now, this is Jeff's list that came in second at Cascadia Continentals last weekend. If you sort by set, you'll notice to play this set, if you have all the Null Signal Games cards, if you have Ashes and some of the Magnum Opus reprints, you only have to proxy 4 cards. Again, most of standard is actually startup plus Ashes, so it's really easy if you want to just print a couple proxies and try out standard for the first time. I promise you, it's a lot of fun. Otherwise, you are going to have to fill out a deck list. Do watch out. It is a competitive event, so deck lists are required. So you can print this out. This is online on Null Signal, link in the description. You can fill this out and you just hand deliver it to me at the event, but we will have these printed out at the event. So you can show up day of and you just take, again, a couple of minutes to go through your deck and write it out here. If for some reason you don't think your writing is legible or writing with a pen is not very easy, just ask me, ask someone around there, and we'll help you get your deck list on paper. We'll do it for you just to make sure that you're good. But deck lists are required for this event. Again, the event starts at noon, but we don't start playing at 12:45. So registration at noon, and we have that extra time so deck lists can be submitted and everything is good to go. Please do not be late because it's going to be a long day, and if it's late, everyone's late. On that note, we're starting at noon, so please eat a large breakfast, an early lunch before, because we're going to have one lunch break. It's going to be a bit later at around 4 to 5 between there. So please come in this being well fed enough because we won't be stopping for lunch. We're going to start right after ideally you've had some lunch. So do keep that in mind kindly. Otherwise, we are looking to be playing, we're going to be playing single-sided Swiss. So these are going to be 40-minute rounds. So you only play one side versus a person. And then it's not the 65-minute double-sided Swiss where you swap sides. I'm a big fan of single-sided Swiss. You can find more information online about this, ask questions. But we're going to be playing either 8 or 10 rounds, depending how many players we have. Again, the breakpoint is about 33 players where we might hit 10 rounds. If that's the case, if we start at 12 and registration at 12, we start at 12:45, we're either going to be done somewhere around 7 p.m. or 9 p.m. We're going to have a lunch break somewhere between, I believe, the 4th and 5th round on that. So it should be about between 4 and 5 that we'll be going for some food. Speaking of food, we're in a good area for that. Again, we're only going to have about 45 to 50 minutes for food, so I wouldn't recommend you to sprawl out into the city to go get some ambitious food takes. But around us, there's a lot of really good options. Just downstairs in the same building, there's a great ramen place, there's a burrito place. Just on the corner is A&W, which is a fast food chain in Canada that actually is really good in Canada. And all these places have vegetarian and vegan options. And I'd highly recommend to not go too much farther because we're not going to have a lot of time. Again, we're going to be wrapped at either 7 or 9 o'clock. After then, if you want to go for a proper nice dinner, we can do it. But there's a lot of options in the area, and we'll be recommending more options once you're there as well. But yeah, you should have a lot of options in the very immediate vicinity. All right, I think now we can talk about some prize support, which is always a really exciting time. And we have so much prize support at this event. Not only do we have the National Championship kit, we have the boosted National Championship kit. So we have so much to be giving out. That includes these gorgeous Hush playmats. The altarts this year are Angolo and Anawetic Void, both very, very nice. There's some Maryland campaigns snuck in there. And there's also these best of faction pins. So if you're the top 2 in your faction on day 1, you can get these very shiny, very nice pins. And they have them for every faction. We have 2 of them, and including the neutral faction. So if you play Nova or Ampere, you're almost all but guaranteed to get these really nice pins, let's be honest. But they're very quite cool. There's also 2, I think, Circuit Breaker Invitational invites, which is awesome. And if you win, not only do you get the title, do you get the plaque itself, but you also get a free reserved ticket to entrance at Barcelona World Championship 2023, which right now is actually sold out. So that's a nice way to sneak into Worlds if you forgot or haven't got your ticket so far. It is, in fact, sold out. That's pretty hype. Now, of course, we haven't fully talked about the structure. Day 1, starting at noon, registration at 12:45 will start. That will be 8 to 10 rounds of single-sided Swiss for a standard tournament. Either the top 4 or the top 8, depending on the size of the event, will be returning the next day, Sunday, again at noon as well, to play that double elimination finals until we can crown the top, the champion of the event. But also on Sunday, there will be some side events for all the players who didn't make the top 4 or top 8, or players who specifically want to come to just play Startup. In fact, there is a Startup Championship the following day. So starting on Sunday at the same time, noon for registration, decklists will be required. There will be a Startup Championship. And we also have a lot of prize support for this. We have a whole bunch of extra G&Ks. We have Circuit Breaker Invitationals, and we're going to be putting all that stuff together to get some good prize support. So if you want to show up on Sunday to play some Startup, and I'd recommend if you don't make the top cut on Saturday, play some Startup on Sunday, meet some new people. It's going to be a fantastic event as well. Now, there's one more important part of the prize support that I'm most excited to talk about, and that's something unique and exclusive to this Canadian Nationals. Originally, when I got the permission to run a Nationals here, I wanted to make some prize support that harkened back to this absolutely fantastic city of Montreal. And so we started here. This is the Montreal crest, the Montreal flower. It goes back to 1981. It was designed by Georges Huel, a Canadian graphic designer and artist, and he created this flower. And this flower, the 4 petals, they're meant to be a mixture of a V and an M, which stands for Ville de Montréal, the city of Montreal. And this logo has been the Montreal logo now for about 25 years. So I wanted to use this logo as an inspiration for a Netrunner altart that we could give out here in the city of Montreal. And I'm so excited to show off this self-modifying code. This was a commission from Kat Shen, an artist that you might be familiar with. Kat does a lot of other art for Null Signal Games. You've probably seen some of their art within the Automata Initiative. And I think this thing came out absolutely fantastic. Here you see the Montreal logo exploding as it comes apart into an SMC, and you get a lot of vibrance and color. And I think this thing turned out so absolutely great. Specifically, Montreal classically has been kind of just a den of Shaper players. So we wanted to put out a very easy to play, a very evergreen Shaper card, and this is where we ended up. Now, these just came in from the printer, and I cannot be happier how they turned out. The colors are absolutely fantastic. Also, the back of the card is just the full art, so you can just appreciate that, sleeve it whichever way makes more sense for your playgroup. And this is going to be really easy to get. This, in fact, is a participation prize for just showing up to the Nationals, for buying your ticket. You'll be leaving with a full playset, a nice little memento of the beautiful city of Montreal. There is also a more exclusive version. We printed out a couple sets of a full foil version that will be more attached to top prizing, but there will be at least a set raffled out throughout the event. So this one's going to be a bit harder to get hold of. And again, huge shout out to work with Kat Chen. You're probably familiar with their art. And if you want to get more of their art, Kat has open their own Make Playing Cards page. Kizra is the handle, link in the description. I have just about all of these. Big fan, particularly of that lovely Amakua. Now we have one last important piece of prize support, and that is the Tim Hortons prize. For those who don't know, Tim Hortons is this ubiquitous chain of coffee and donut places that span all across Canada, named after a hockey player. It's incredibly Canadian. It's also not very good, but we will be giving out a gift card to the lowest standings player who came into Canada for the event. So if you're not having a great day, this hopefully will sweeten the deal. Thanks for coming to Canada. We kindly ask that whatever you do with this gift card, you share it maybe with some of the people you met at the event, which I think will brighten up your day and everyone's day. It's easy to make friends with a box of Timbits. And I think that largely actually covers the entirety of all the things you need to know for the event. I just want to take like 2 or 3 minutes to go over some of the basic stuff of like, what are some cool things to do in Montreal if I'm there for the weekend? Of course, we're going to be spending a lot of time playing Netrunner, but there's some times mostly in the mornings, and these are the things that are generally recommended as things to do. So first, Montreal bagels. Oh, this is a really big thing. Montreal has its own style of bagels. They're a bit denser. They generally have a bit of honey on them. They're sweeter. They're really, really quite nice. And there's actually 2 big bagel companies, and there's a lot of like, I don't know, there's a bit of a bagel war going on. So the 2 big ones that I recommend you to go to, Fairmount Bagel, that's the one here in the plateau. And if you want to just go a couple blocks away to St. Viateur Bagel, that's the second one too. You can try both of the bagels. I promise you, there is nothing better than having a fresh Montreal bagel straight from the wood fire oven. Go there with cash, get a hot bagel, ask for whatever's freshest. It is an immense meal. It is very, very good. Now, I don't believe these are vegan. They are vegetarian. They generally use eggs or honey, but we have other suggestions. Again, you're coming to Quebec, you must try some poutine. If you don't know poutine, it is the very Quebecois meal from the 1950s. It's fries covered with gravy and then cheese curds. You can put whatever toppings you want on top of it. There's a lot of different kinds of poutines, and there's a lot of ink spilled across the history to tell you what is the best poutine to go to in Montreal. I'm not going to answer that question, but I will tell you where is the best poutine culture and where most people end up in Montreal, and I think it's a really safe spot, and that is La Banquise. La Banquise is this yellow building here on the corner next to Parc La Fontaine, and it is an absolute circus. It's open 24 hours a day. It has an immense menu. It always has a line outside, but if you want to poutine, no matter what time of the day it is, just go there. You're going to have to queue up for a bit, but once you get in, it is an experience. Now, they do have all sorts of vegetarian and vegan options. There's poutines all across the city. Do just watch out and ask if you care about this sort of stuff. Sometimes the gravy is vegetarian, sometimes it's not. There are vegan cheese curds. It's pretty great, but La Banquise is probably the first place you should go for a good poutine and then experience some of the other ones. Next up, this has to be said, don't eat meat, but Montreal style smoked meat is a thing people do when they come to the city. Schwartz's has been around for nearly 100 years. That's the big one that people go to, Schwartz's Deli here on St. Laurent in the Plateau. You can go from Schwartz's, you go up the street, you get to the bagels. That is what a lot of people do. So yeah, that's there. It's obviously not vegetarian or vegan. Otherwise, things to see. In the middle of Montreal is Mount Royal. It's not a mountain, it's a hill, but it's a really nice hike. It gets very green. It's a pleasant walk. Some are steeper than others. Take whatever path makes sense to you. But at the top is this lookout. Apparently it's called Condiaronk Belvedere. Never knew that in my life, but it's a really nice place to go to get a nice lookout over the city. And it's absolutely gorgeous up there. If you go on the weekend too, if you want to come down on this side throughout most of Sunday, there's something called Tam Tams, which is the largest outdoor park gathering on a regular event. It is pretty nonsense. It is so cool, but this whole area is a really nice place to go for a walk. Now, one of the other places a lot of folks recommend to go, it's a big tourist attraction, is the Old Port or the Old City. Montreal as a city is nearly 400 years old, and a lot of that history is still there with this old part of the city with cobblestone roads and the buildings that, again, have been there for centuries. This is a very touristy section. It's actually very close to the Silver Goblin. The Silver Goblin, if I'm not mistaken, we're just right here, and it's about like a 15-minute walk here towards the water. And this is all the old city, where you can see the old city hall. There's big courts and stuff like that. It is a cool place. It's going to be very busy. It's also very touristy, so I wouldn't recommend going there for dinner. It's more often like a tourist trap, stuff like that. But seeing the place, it's quite nice. It's a very nice walk out. There's what's a Ferris wheel in the harbor, everything is there. The circus is there. It'll be fun. Now, of course, if you're here for the weekend, you're going to be spending most of your time playing Netrunner. It might be harder to see more than that, but if you're staying for more days on either end, do hit me up if you want more recommendations of what to do in Montreal. This is the basic primer. One other thing to say really quickly is that this event, it will not be live streamed. Maybe there's an expectation because we do live stream here on the channel, but I'm going to be bringing my camera and I will actually be filming the event. And that means over the next couple of weeks to months, we're going to be releasing the gameplay, the footage from Nationals in the way that we used to on this channel way back in the day with edited overlays and all this sort of nice stuff. So if you want to watch some tabletop play, we're going to be going back to our roots and producing some content like this, which I'm pretty excited about. It's been a minute. Otherwise, that's all. That is the Canadian Nationals 2023 in a nutshell. If there's any questions that I haven't answered, please kindly hit me up in the comments below and I'll get to you immediately. If you want to reach out to me on Green Level Clearance, you can find me as a Maverick, the exact same name that I play on Jinteki.net. You can find me there as well. When it comes to restaurants and food recommendations outside of just the stuff to go for dinner while we're around there, I will be sharing a lot of recommendations closer to the date of restaurants and foods, particularly vegetarian and vegan stuff. You're spoiled for options in the city, let me tell you. So that's it. Canadian Nationals is just about a week and a bit away. Again, the 26th and 27th. If you're considering coming down, hopefully this might have encouraged you. It's going to be an absolutely phenomenal event. Montreal is just a fantastic city, particularly in the summer. It is, I cannot imagine a nicer place. So we would love to have you. Again, if you have any additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out with a comment here and we'll respond to it as soon as possible. And I look forward to seeing all y'all at Canadian Nationals. See you in a bit.